Evening, everyone. This is Jackie Rose. Hope after the landslide. It is Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are broadcasting live for the last 8 or 9 years, sharing beautiful stories and how God has brought healing and hope and just so many different things. And I'm sure you recognize this lady. Susie was on, I guess we were saying maybe about a month ago or so. I'm not really sure, maybe.
Couple months.
We had promised that she was going to do a part 2 to her story, so which will involve Josh. And so I'm going to let Susie do a refresh for everybody that was not here when Susie shared her story. Well, first we can say that, when Zach had passed away and everything, and we'll just take it from there. So welcome, everybody. If you're here for the first time, I'm sorry that you have to be here, but we really welcome you. And we know that this is a beautiful community where you can share your stories, and you can also feel a part of this family. So put in the comments where you're viewing from, the name of your child that passed away, and we will do our best to answer comments once the program is over. So Susie, would you like to bring everybody up to speed, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Susie, and I live in Nampa, Idaho. And on May 6, 2018, my son Zach was taken to heaven at about 3:36 in the morning. And that started a journey of just how the Lord was going to change my life forever. So I had I talk about my surgeries because I've literally had 10 surgeries since that day to date, and I've got a couple more to go. I told Jackie my body's totally falling apart. However, I just had an emergency surgery for all my horse people out there that are watching. I basically colicked. So my intestines twisted. I had 18 inches taken out in my appendix. And so I'd been in the hospital for about a week and been out of the hospital for about 6 days when I found out the news of what had happened to Zach. And so because of the grieving, and obviously you guys understand that it caused incisional hernias in my abdomen. So I had 3 more abdominal surgeries from that. So it just kind of started that. But after I heard the news, hours after I heard the news, I had gone outside. It was a beautiful warm day in May, and I walked outside. I just wanted to get away to be by myself. There was, of course, friends and family that had come over to come bring comfort and to help figure things out. And I went outside and I just asked the Lord, how are you going to use this for good? Not like why, but how are you going to use this? What are you going to do? And he spoke to my heart. I could have been audibly said, I'm going to make it beautiful and I'm going to help you. And I just felt at that moment, I felt like a grace just kind of fall on my shoulders. And I'm like, okay, like I just knew that if God was going to help me, I could get through whatever that looked like. And I just want to say that it's not easy to do that. It's a moment by moment decision of letting him help you through every moment that comes about. And so I was really just trying to figure everything out. Like, Lord, what does that mean? And so when things happen in a traumatic manner and sudden, and you're not planning for it, and even if you are planning for it, you still don't know what to do because you're in shock and trauma and your body is not reacting how it normally would. And so it started a journey of, I didn't know who this person was. I didn't even know when the officer came over, I still wasn't really accepting reality, I guess. He said Zach was in a motorcycle crash. And I said, well, is he okay? Of course he wasn't okay, or the officer wouldn't have been coming to my house. So just trying to deal with reality, and the way that I kind of handle stress and pain and trauma usually is to work out my body until I want to fall apart, run up and down Table Rock, which is a big like training hill. There's like a cross at the top, and people here in Idaho will train for running races and marathons. And so I'd run up there. I couldn't because I was sorry, Gabe, I'm busy. Or sorry. Yeah, quietly. Sorry. Gabe's here. Those of you know Gabe too. And so I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to kind of be still. And I was obviously on pain medication and things like that for the surgery. And I didn't even want to take that. I wanted to feel everything I was supposed to feel. I didn't want to numb anything. I'm like, okay, Lord, I just want you to help me through whatever that looks like. And so you start that journey, you have to pick out, do I pick out an urn? Do I pick out a casket? What do I do with this? I don't know what I'm doing. And so there was a lot of those decisions that we all obviously have known that we have to make. And so went through that process. And then because Zach was taken by an impaired driver, there was, of course, court mediation, court dates of all that I showed up for, a lot of them. And so, but prior to that, so like I said, I had a lot of surgeries. And so during that time that I had to sit, I had a choice. Okay, am I going to sit here and freak out? Because when we're in pain and you can't do the things that you normally do when you're in pain, which is work out, ride horses, be busy cleaning. I couldn't do any of those things. I was literally forced to kind of sit still. And so I had a choice whether I wasn't going to take the pain medication. So.
Oh, no. Josh, can you juggle balls or?
I wish.
She'll be able to bounce back on. I could say hi to Carolyn, and Susie will be right back momentarily. Oh, I guess now I've lost both. Oh, wait, here comes Susie. Welcome back, Susie.
Ooh, hold on.
Okay, now both of you guys are back. Okay, she just here. You know what? This is when I prayed before. We always pray before we start about technology. And this sometimes happens. So maybe I'm not supposed to pray about technology and then it won't happen. I don't know if it's supposed to do that. Were you going to say something, Josh?
No, you're okay.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. 2, 1. Oh, hi. Okay. So we're all back together again.
Sorry. I don't even know what happened. I just disappeared. So I don't know where I was when I left off, but
well, I'll say that, Susie's talking about, what happened after Zach passed away, and that she was in this place of, we want to move. We have to do something with this grief. A lot of people are in the fight or flight. And if you are in a place where you're, impaired and you have to sit and be still, it's terrible to not be able to get up and move around. So you didn't know what to do with this energy of, yeah, I think that's.
So I had a choice, and I believe we all have a choice when we're faced with something. We can either trust.
Oh no, she's gonna have to go in another room. I'm gonna hope that she can go in another room because I think she was on her before and the internet was unstable. Yes, Stacy. Yeah, keep praying that this is not gonna keep happening. Hold on a second. Da, da, da. Maybe she is going in another room. Okay, so while we're waiting, Susie was supposed to be coming back. Oh, here she is. Hold on. Do you think going in another? Oh, you went into another room.
I did.
Okay, that's better.
Where's Josh?
I don't know. He bounced off too. Maybe he bounced off twice. Oh, here he comes. Okay.
Okay, I'm in another room. I don't know if what's the deal, but anyways, thanks for being patient.
Here we are. We're welcome back, Susie and Josh.
I feel like I have to talk like in 2 times speed, like when you're trying to listen to something and you're trying to listen.
Just breathe. Just breathe, friend.
Yeah, good. So I'm in a different room. So we'll see if that helps. Anyways, so what I was trying to say is when we're faced with grief and trauma, again, not being able to move around, we're faced with that. Okay, am I going to trust the Jesus or not? So I'm preparing for this mediation. There's going to be a sentencing. All these things are building up. Again, I'm abbreviating the story, but a lot of you've heard the story. So immediately, like in the beginning, the Lord kind of said he was going to help me. And so I just would make notes in my iPad when I would think of words. And, the Lord kind of gave me a vision of what if that had been Zach that had done that? Like, how would I feel if Zach would have been the one that would have hit and killed somebody? I would have been devastated for him because I know that would have broken his heart. He would have felt horrible. And so I just had compassion and love for this person that I didn't know. And I just wanted to tell him that I wanted God to be able to use his life, that I didn't want his life to be wasted, that I didn't want this to be the one mistake that would define him forever in a negative way, that I wanted God to turn all of this into something beautiful somehow, because God promised me he was going to do that. And so in that process of writing this statement, which was really just a letter to the person who had taken Zach to heaven, it was a letter to him. It was what I wanted to do. In mediation, we'd come to this agreement, again, faced with a decision. I walked in there with my lawyers, and his lawyers went into the room, and, well, how long do you want him to get? I'm like, I don't even want to be here. Like, I don't, and in that process, I was not angry with Josh. I just gave it away. Anyways, it's okay. I was not angry.
Well, because you're still walking in that room, obviously.
Walking in the room. Yeah.
Had done something like this, right? You had.
Yeah. So I'm walking. I don't want any of it. Like, I can't bring Zach back. I mean, I don't want any of it. I didn't want his life to, I just didn't want any of it. So I'm like, well, my brother, who had been killed in a car accident the November before Zach died, he had gone to prison for a repeat offender, drunk driving, but he'd only hit a tree. I'm like, he was there for 5 years. I guess that, I don't know. Anyways, there had been an agreement. I think it was 3.5 years and then some probation. And so we walked into the sentencing, and here the Lord had helped me prepare this whole statement, which was, again, a letter of compassion, love, how if I would have been his mom, I would be devastated for him. And me not thinking at the time that he was even listening to anything I was saying. I didn't know that he even cared at the time. He was told to not look at me and things like that. It was very hard for me to trust the Lord through that process. And also in the process of writing the letter. And I know Jackie remembers this. I had this vision and it's a picture that was posted, but I had a vision of when I would meet him for the first time. It was across like a park, and he was come and hug me and embrace me. And I would know that he was sorry, and that I could see what the Lord was going to do. I mean, there's so many things. And so, So we went to the sentencing hearing, and we get there, and the judge doesn't even want me to give my statement. Changes everything. But the Lord had told me before I walked in, I'm going to have mercy. I'm going to have mercy on him. And I said, okay. It's like, I just knew something was going to be different, but I just said, okay, like, it's just in my heart. I'm like, I'm going to have mercy. And so I knew if it was different, I knew it was what God had planned. And so we walked in there, and everything was different. The prosecuting attorney took us all to a different room, and he's like, the judge wants to change the sentence. He doesn't want he's throwing the mediation out. And I was like, well, can I at least give my statement? Like, my kids are, I've worked, almost a year. It was April 24th, and the heaven date would have been May 6th, or was May 6th. So it was almost a year. Like, I want to at least say what I've been wanted to say. So he let us give our statements, and the sentence that was given, I'll let him share that. But it was, God had mercy. Like, God had mercy, and I was okay with that. I was okay because God had already prepared my heart for that. And I think that's one message that I want to say is, like in Deuteronomy 31:8, it says, the Lord goes before you. So we don't have to be afraid or be discouraged. And I can put that verse in there later, but he's gone before, like, he's already went before that sentencing hearing. He'd already prepared me for what was going to happen and was preparing me with the vision. So I wanted to talk to him. I wanted him to talk to me. That wasn't happening because he was told not to look at me or talk to me. So after the sentencing, by the time we were able to talk, it was 2 years. Wow. 2 years after. It was 2 years after. And anyways, I'm gonna let Josh tell some of the parts.
Well, and I think too, and Josh, like, obviously this is Josh, and I remember Susie saying to me, you can't be attached to the outcome, because this individual may not want to have anything to do with you. So you're just going to have to be able to forgive, even if he doesn't want to be in contact with you. And so fast forwarding, this is this courageous man, Josh, and he's agreed to come on to share a little bit. And Susie, just breathe, honey, because I know this is a lot.
Well, I got kicked off 3 times, so I got.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, thank you, Josh, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So a little bit different format than what me and Susie usually present as a group together. So I'll try to abbreviate the front end of it, but I think it's important to the story. So my background, I came from a family of abusers, of substance abusers, alcohol abusers, as well as physical abuse. My actual aunt and uncle took me in when I was 11 because my mom was a terrible mother. My father had never been around. And so with that, almost out of spite, I absolutely refused to turn out anything like anyone in my family. And so as soon as I can get out of small town Iowa, which is where I'm originally from, I was gone. I joined the service, spent 2 years active, 6 in the National Guard. And in high school, I had some issues with some low back stuff. I was actually kind of like locked up. They had me on muscle relaxers, painkillers, all sorts of stuff. And like to the point where I couldn't even pay attention in class. And so then my aunt had taken me to a chiropractor at the time. He was able to get me back on the wrestling mat in, couple treatments. I'm like, wow, this is great. So through high school and the first couple of years, I always thought in the back of my mind I would get into, kinesiology, PT, chiropractic, something like in the sports medicine field. And so I did what every other college student did, went to school, partied. And what's funny is I wanted so much not to be like my parents. Like I remember friends of mine in high school getting DUIs even before they had driver's license. Like it was in Iowa, there's nothing to do but farm, drink, and fish and hunt. That's pretty much about it, especially in rural Iowa. So it wasn't uncommon for these things to happen, but I just kept to myself, played sports, and kept my head down through that whole time. I think the first time I actually drank was either my first or second week in college during football camp. And so anyway, get through college. And I slowly start to turn into, like, when we look at alcoholism or substance abuse, there's basically like two types. There's like the functional daily drinker alcoholic, and then there's the binge drinker. I'm definitely was in that second category where I could be functional 6 days out of the week, have everything together, make the grades, and then Saturday would come along and it's time to party. So I make it through college, end up in grad school. I went to the Palmer College of Chiropractic, which is actually in Iowa as well. Graduated from there in 2012 and kind of bounced around chasing work. You always get promised from these docs. Like there's a saying in chiropractic field that like the old eat the young, because these guys have been in practice for 20 some years and here's a new guy that they can make money off from. So they're going to put him to work and they're slowly going to step aside. And when it's time to pay those bonuses and everything else that are promises, they never come along. So then, I spend years working at this place for a year or two, this place for a year or two, this place for a year or two. And it's this continuous cycle of like, man, I'm in all this student loan debt. I'm in a city that I've never been in before. I don't really know anybody. And I don't really have I really jacked my life up? And so through that process, then the binge drinking turned into like a daily thing where I could go to work, but as soon as I was done with work, I was drinking the rest of the night until I fell asleep, rinse, repeat 7 days a week. Before I moved to Boise, Idaho, I relocated from Nashville, moved up here, same situation. I was supposed to take an office management position. That didn't pan out. They actually eliminated my job 6 months after I moved here. So again, I'm in the city that's new to me. I moved 33 hours one direction and my job no longer exists. So at the time I was coaching CrossFit, I was training CrossFit, and decided, okay, well, I'm just going to practice. I'll work out of the gym, kind of like a part-time deal with you guys if you'll allow it. So I started doing that. And so from the outside world looking in, it's like Josh had his stuff together. Like he was in the military, he played sports, he went to college, he's got this somewhat successful practice because it's just a fledgling practice. But what they didn't know was, I would leave the office at 6 o'clock and pick up like a pack of tall boys on my way home. It's a 15-minute drive. And I'd have 2 of them gone before I got home. After about a year, I moved my brother out here. And again, he's from super small town Iowa. There's nothing much to do but work and drink and hunt and fish. So now they got 2 people, same mentality, living under the same roof. So definitely not a great situation. So we're almost feeding off of each other in that situation. And so it worked out to where I was about to open a second office. in my mind, things are finally great. Things are turning around for me. I'm going to be able to pay off my student loans, kind of get out of this lump that I've been in. And opened the second office. I had some friends in town. One set of friends was out of Seattle. The other one was from Iowa. We're all supposed to go on this fishing trip the next morning. So second office closes on a Saturday at like 2, 3 in the afternoon. I go home, shower, have a drink or two while I'm doing that, drive back into town and realize I'm living in Kuna, Idaho, and we're going out drinking in Boise, Idaho. Well, Kuna to Boise is like 45-minute drive, give or take. And then we stay out all night drinking that night, having dinner, doing that. But like the problem with like alcoholics or people who use substances is like a normal, I would say normie or normal person can go out and have like a glass of wine. Me and people like me, like we can't. It's like we're going ham, we're going all in. And so that's what that night turned into. So everybody's departing, and in my drunken stupor, I'm like, okay, well, instead of driving from Boise back to my house in Kuna, we're all meeting in Nampa tomorrow anyway to go fishing. So I'm just going to head over and sleep at my buddy's place. I didn't make it downtown very often, so I couldn't even really remember what cross street I parked my car on. So I had already, cashed out my tabs, left the bar. I'm walking around trying to find my vehicle on one of these cross streets, end up finding it, driving all the way over to Karcher Boulevard. And on the way, my phone dies. And I vividly remember this part of the night. My phone dies, and I'm kind of struggling to find my charger and stuff. And so I take an exit off the interstate onto Karcher Boulevard, and I can see kind of like a car dealership or something over here on the left. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull over there, get my phone plugged in, because I've only been to my friend's house a handful of times. I need my GPS to figure out where he lives. And I'm coming up to the sign. I have like a blinking yellow light, and I'm getting ready to make my left-hand turn. And just last second, I see this bright light over my right shoulder. And as soon as I turn to look and see what this bright light is, something happened. I mean, my entire car shifted. I rolled to a stop. The car doesn't even want to drive anymore. Whether I hit a pole, another vehicle, I have no idea at this point in time. So I stop, get out, look at my car, and I look up at the street and realize like something bad has happened. I don't know what. And I just froze in that instant. I didn't really know what to do. And shortly after this, I start hearing alarms coming down the road, everything else. And so the cops show up, start doing field sobriety tests, everything else. I fail all those. I do a breathalyzer. I think the first blow I had was a 0.17, and the second one was like a 0.16, basically double the legal limit. But mind you, I had left the bar probably an hour and a half ago between the drive, everything else. So probably substantially more intoxicated than I was as I was doing the field sobriety tests and everything. And so the cop informs me, he's like, hey, you're being arrested for aggravated DUI. There's been a motor vehicle accident. And that all depends on how he's doing. That's the first time. That's what I'm told as I'm being arrested. So then I go and I know I am not in a good position, but I don't know exactly what exactly is going on. I don't have the full picture. Fast forward about 5 hours. I'm still in the drunk tank or in booking at our county jail. And I called my then girlfriend, now wife, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, you're all over the news. You're all over social media. What the hell were you thinking? And I asked her, I was like, well, what happened to the guy? Like, what's going on? And they're like, it was a motorcycle. And he died. He died like 3 hours ago. And like my whole world just like sunk at that point in time. So now I'm in county jail, a situation I'm not used to by any means. And this is all like the world's just kind of crushing in on what I'm responsible for at this point in time. Like Susie's mentioned during this talking before, we go through like now a year leading up to the sentencing of court trials and things getting pushed out and looking for more information, doing discoveries. We do mediation. And when we sat down for mediation, it was basically to come out with some sort of a plea agreement that we can present to the judge. And typically what you see, well, we don't need to get into that, but the prosecution years. And I think when she put the verbiage in there with a possible retained jurisdiction, that was to get me and my lawyer to basically shake hands and say, yes, we'll do that. And for some reason, the judge that was overseeing the case looked at that and said, given everything he's done, I see some better outcome in this. And so he opted to do the retained jurisdiction. So during this entire time, this past year, I keep going to court and I see all these family, and my attorney's like, don't talk to him. Don't reach out to him on social media. I don't even want you looking at him. Like, you're here just to do what you need to do. Keep your head down. That's it. This will be in and out in 20, 30 minutes, each one of these court dates. So I do exactly that.
Really, I'm sorry to interrupt. So can I ask you, when they told you to do that, what was your heart telling you at that moment, as far as like just being in the courtroom with them? Did you feel as though you really wanted to, or were you just going through the motions?
It's a little bit of both. I don't really know how to describe it. And I'll get into more of that once me and Susie actually finally connect. It makes a little more sense. But it's like, even at that time, and I still struggle with it to this day, is everyone around me can forgive me. God can forgive me and for my mistakes. I still have yet to do that. I get closer to it every day, but I still haven't completely forgiven myself. So we go into the sentencing, we do the retained jurisdiction, and then I'm gone. Like when I went to sentencing that day, I had already shut my cell phone down. I didn't even bring my wallet. I transferred all my money over into my girlfriend's account. Like, I knew either I wasn't going home for a year or I wasn't going home for at least 3.5 years. One of those two was about to happen. Mm-hmm. So we do the time, we go through that. I had a little bit of a fight with the Idaho Board of Chiropractic because they wanted me to like basically fight to keep my license since it was a felony conviction. I eventually just said, take the license. I don't want anything to do with it. Because from my mind, it was my decision to go to school plus everything else I was dealing with that kind of led me into the position I was. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it ever again. Like, even whenever we get out of this situation, you know, what happens when all this is all the legal stuff is over and I'm a chiropractor again and I'm, you know, making the money that I'm making and kind of just feeling sorry for myself is really what it comes down to, some self-loathing. Mm-hmm. And then I end up in the exact same rut that I was before. So I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. So I left that, got out, and now those opportunities are open. Luckily I had a construction background, so I was working for a roofing company. We did a lot of travel. And my probation officer calls me one day. I'm in Spokane, Washington, working on a roof for Washington State University School. And he's like, hey, the mom really wants to talk to you. You need to reach out to her. I was like, okay, as soon as I get a chance, I'll reach out to her. Well, we're working until like 10:30, 11 o'clock that night. There's an hour difference. I'm like, well, I'm not going to call her at 1 a.m. So then go to sleep, wake up the next day. My probation officer calls. He goes, I don't want to make this phone call again, but you need to call her today because she wants to talk to you. Okay. So I go talk to my supervisor. I was like, hey, man, as soon as we take lunch, I don't know how long this is going to be. This could be 5 seconds. This could be 2 hours. But I need to go make a phone call. So I go down a random hall in the university, hop on the phone, make the phone call. And, you know, I hear this lady pick up the phone and goes, hello. I'm like, hey, this is Josh. And then there's just kind of silence between the two of us. And I'm really just choking up, trying to figure out like what exactly to say to her. Wow. And before I even have a chance to like actually put together a word, she goes, Josh, it's okay. I forgive you. And we both, like, for me, like, I'm immediately tearing up. I'm breaking down. And, you know, we say a few things back and forth, and to this day, and she knows this, but it's like, it would have been so much easier if you just, and I'll try to keep this PG as much as possible, but I'm like, if you would just call me a piece of crap, you know, tell me how much you don't like me. Like, can you just do that? And she's like, no, it's like, I look at this as if this could have been my son. You know, like, he wasn't perfect either. He could have been in the exact same situation as you. Like I'm never going to forget what you have done to me, but I forgive you for what you've done to both of us. And honestly, to this day, that's probably one of the toughest things I've ever had to hear from somebody, is that they forgave me. Kind of going back to what I was talking about before, like, I've been forgiven by a lot of people around me. And I still struggle to this day to forgive myself. You know, like, before we talked on this meeting, it's like, I don't want any hype, you know, around me or whatsoever. It's just, I think between, you know, Susie's situation, everything she has going on in life, and, you know, how I'm a part of that, there's such a good, wholesome message in that about just things happen in life. And, you know, there's a way to make something beautiful out of something terrible, something tragic. And, you know, like, for me, like, we have a mutual friend, as Susie actually doesn't know this, but there's a motorcycle group that actually put together a ride for her son that they do once a year annually. And I actually knew this guy because he was a former patient of mine.
Oh.
And so I'm in Star, Idaho, which is kind of secluded for the Treasure Valley in the Boise area. And I'm at the gym, and I kind of see him out of the corner of my eye, and I realize it's him. And I immediately think, I'm like, I'm going to have to change gyms, because, like, I try to, like I said, I just try to stay in the shadows. And finally, you know, a couple days go by, maybe a week, and he actually comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?" And I think that was just kind of an icebreaker to get the conversation going. And so we end up chatting, and we're talking a little bit about it. And he's like, "Yeah, you know, it's survivor's guilt." And I was like, "I've never, you know, it's been it's a handful of years now." And I'm like, "I've never really put it or understood it that way. You know, I spent some time in the service, and, like, to me, that makes more sense if you're, you know, you're in a MCAT or a Humvee and you hit an IUD and you're one of 5 guys that makes it out of that vehicle. To me, I understand that survivor's guilt. Dealing with how I feel, it's like, I mean, maybe that is the best way to describe it. I don't know, but it's,
Well, you've got an accumulation of so much, Josh, as far as you sharing, you know, from when you were a child. And it seems like there's just been this ongoing, I guess maybe the word is disappointment for you, one thing after another, and leading into school and all this. And then you're like, and to be honest, like, I think a lot of guys that are your age, it seems to be really common to where, you know, like my son, completely lose hope after one thing after another. But for such a time as this, that, you know, God continues to give you, you know, this courage to do this. And again, you know, we did talk earlier about, like, he's like, I just want to, I'm gonna be in the shadows, and I don't want to make this be a big deal. But the difference is that Josh has said, yes, yes, I will do this, you know, to glory God, or to help other people, because you could have said no. And so I just want to obviously commend you, because not having a dad around, and, you know, mom not so much in the picture, and just having disappointment and rejection, there's so many things, and now here you are. But it sounds as though God is really going to continue to honor you and love you by this beautiful family that you've got going on right now. And I mean, I bet if I were to say everybody that is on here, I will share the scripture, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God in Romans 3:23, you know, and Jesus says, you throw the first stone. We have all done things, you know, to the point where, you know, maybe I could have had somebody, you know, pass because of something I did, you know, but it was you guys in this situation. And he is, I can't even begin to tell you how many people that you are changing lives, both of you, for the courage. So, but anyway, survivor's guilt, I've never heard that. Maybe other people have heard it. And I also want to say to you, Josh, that there's a lot of moms that are on here potentially that have had people murder their child intentionally, and all types of other situations. And they are probably holding on to bitterness and unforgiveness. And here we are sharing this very powerful, impactful testimony, if you will. So there, and again, I just wish I could be the one to come over and hug you, because truly, like, well, you could be my son's age. it makes a big difference. But anyway, please continue.
I mean, that kind of that brings us current. So now we do talks with Mad Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I've been sober from that day. And it's an interesting dynamic because, these folks in Idaho, which I think is it's a great thing that they use to potentially prevent something like me to happening, is like, even if you get just a misdemeanor DUI, you have to go to one of these mad victim impact panels. And there could be anyone from coroners to the previous fire chiefs, just a slew of people that have been impacted or been around some sort of drunk driving incident, in order to help possibly change these folks' lives. And, Susie's really good. She brings, like kind of questionnaires and some feedback and stuff from everybody that's attended. We've heard nothing but, great things. And so can't really keep tabs on these people, but I would like to think out of, anywhere from 5 to 50 people that we talk to at a time, we at least touch base with one of them. And one of them might make better decisions later on in life. But going back to, my family situation, like I talked to Susie more than I actually talked to my own mother. And there's that. And we both describe it and we both agree, and don't let me speak for you, Susie, but it's like, it's a weird situation that I don't think a lot of people understand, because I ultimately, and this is my perspective on it, is we're the only ones who get it.
Yeah.
We're two different sides, but we're of the same coin. I've had folks that, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but like there was some people out riding side by sides, and they were like, yeah, and then so-and-so had an accident, and we had to get life flighted. And then me and so-and-so were grabbing beer cans and stuff. And I'm like, why are you telling me this story? You know what I mean? Like that's, in a legal sense, that's an aggravated DUI. There's a motor vehicle accident, you were drinking. Like, I understand what you're saying, but understand who you're saying it to. Oh. Or friends that are like, man, after what happened to you, like, we really quit drinking and driving, or, having a couple beers after work and then driving home. And I'm like, okay, that's great. It lasts for 6 months. And so for everybody else, it's just something that happens. I think even shortly after, me and Susie like really started to do the talks with Matt and everything else, I haven't had a family member. It was like, oh, well, your thing. And I'm like, dude, a thing? Like, this isn't a thing. Like, this is my happening. This is life. Right. It's a little more than just a thing. So, and I don't know what Susie's gotten out of it. I've heard of some relationship stuffs and some feedback from others around her, but it's like, ultimately we're the only ones who really get this situation. I think that's what draws us closer with each other.
Yeah. It's, I was just going to say, just like forgiveness, like he had it, like, and I'll share when I share my story, he had a choice. He could have just said thanks and then just tucked it away and never thought about me again after that. I mean, it does take a lot of courage to combat shame and guilt and disappointment, which I think goes along with shame, to talk to the person that you probably don't want to talk to at all because you don't know what to say to that person. But again, God answered every one of my prayers concerning my relationship with Josh. God knew ahead of time, like God gave the judge mercy for him, like literally. And God, like he said, the judge saw something. He did. He saw the Lord gave him eyes. The judge was not nice to me. I will say that he was super disrespectful to me. But it doesn't matter because he was used to fulfill the purpose where we are today. And saw that potential in Josh, and it just comes back on my side, being obedient to believe what the Lord was telling me and to lean into something that was weird. God doesn't do things the same way every time. He doesn't heal the same way every time. Even in the Bible, he might get some mud and put in somebody's eye, and he might just heal them and raise them. He just doesn't do it the same way, but he does promise to make beautiful and to do the impossible, do the possible with the impossible. And, people my kids, they all tell me like, we forgive Josh. Like they've watched some of the stories that we've, things that we've shared. And it's powerful. There's no way that you can muster something like this up. Like we have a true relationship. Like I do love him. Like he's a son, like he's special to me like that. And that's a gift. I really believe it's a gift. And it's a blessing to see his life is different, hopefully in a better way. And I know it's a better way, because when we hide things and we try to stuff things, then it's just going to bring out the same thing that brought on the accident in the first place. Because when we stuff our emotions and we don't deal with them in a healthy way, the same behavior is going to come out. Like in some way, it's got to come out. The same way with our grief. Like if we don't deal with it in a healthy way, it's going to come out some other way. If we don't handle the bitterness and the anger, it's going to come out unhealthy in another way. And I think it's just, like I said in the beginning, I want to get through. I want to feel all that I'm supposed to feel, and I want to get through it, not to get over it, because you never get over something like this. For Josh, his life is never the same. Like for someone to minimize the thing, like I remember him telling me about that, and it's heartbreaking because his life is never the same. Like he's traumatized forever, just like I'm traumatized differently. But he's never the same. He's never going to be the same. I'm never going to be the same. But together, doing what God wants us to do, it brings purpose to the pain. And that's what I think it's important.
Well, and I would certainly say that I would not continue to look at, Josh as somebody to be identified as, the man that made the choice to get into the car and, somebody's life was at stake that night. I would look at Josh as someone to say that, again, he's doing something with it. And, and Josh, would you say that in doing this is how it's helped you to find peace as you go forward in life, to talk about it, versus had, like Susie said, you just walked away and said, hey, thanks for forgiving me, and then move on?
No, it it most definitely has. And more so than that, with talking with other folks, it's really just having the relationship of bond that I have with Susie. And she knows this. I've told her numerous times. I'm like, there's still an inkling of like, I could just move. Like probation and all this legal stuff will be over eventually down the road. Like I could just start over. Nobody knows me. And the Boise is one of those cities that's a 1 degree of separation. Like everybody kind of knows everybody. And so like I run into patients that I used to have. To me, it seems like every person I see.
Same people. Lots of mutual friends.
A lot of overlapping there. And so for me, everybody that makes eye contact with me, I immediately think that's where their head goes, because that's where my head goes.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that's my part of what I'm trying to deal with. But again, it's my burden to bear, and I'm just trying to do what I believe Zach would want me to do, what God believes he wants me to do, or knows he wants me to do. And whether or not I believe or trust in any of that, it's better than the alternative. It's better than the other options. To me, again, before I even relocated to Idaho, I was stationed in a couple different bigger cities, went to grad school, moved from small town Kentucky to big town Kentucky to Texas, another town in Texas to Nashville to Boise. So obviously I don't have a problem moving. But with everything done and this relationship that we've developed, I'm like, I want to own this. I feel like that's my responsibility. That's my path in life that's set forth to do so. So regardless of, what anyone might want to say under their breath or think about, mine and Susie's relationship with each other, I'm like, this is what I believe is right and the road I'm supposed to walk. So I walk it.
Amen. Well, and congratulations on the sobriety and just, all these good decisions. And I know that you guys, your story is going to continue. You guys are just the I hate to say it, but the poster people of how life should be. How you shouldn't sweep things under the rug, how you should face the mistakes that we've made and in moving forward and love one another. I mean, God's Bible it's a love story. of his love for his people. And so you guys are being such a beautiful example of that. I'm reading in some of these comments in here, and nothing but good stuff. And once again, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that you both have helped, and I would love to come and hear you guys speak.
Yeah.
You know, you guys do it again next time, and support that. I mean, truly, I have been holding back tears of joy, and just seeing the two of you together, it just makes my heart just so happy. I will come back and say hi to and comment back on some of the people that are here, but you guys, thank you
I will too.
for all being here. One last thing. So from a spiritual standpoint, is this brought you closer to God then, Josh, since all this has happened in a, you know, and that's.
How has it affected you spiritually? Amy?
Wow. Loaded question for me. So I do not come from a religious background whatsoever.
Right.
I don't even want to say I've tried. I would like dabble with. I find that I definitely have a conservative background. I believe that the church is a very strong foundation for any society and family. With that being said, it has always been and continues to be difficult for me because I'm like, why was I placed in the situations that I was to begin with? And through this process, and I would say getting closer, like me and my wife go to church, that the reasoning behind it makes more sense the further I come along. So I guess I don't really know how to give you a solid answer. I would say yes, but it is still something that I struggle with often, mainly because it's like if you know I'm strong enough to bear this guilt, that's fair. But if and obviously he knows, but I'm like, sometimes I don't know if I know, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's fair, and of course, we respect where everybody is spiritually and their journey to getting to understand why things have happened. You know, I continue, as I shared with you in the beginning, it's like, why did my son try to take his family to heaven when he knew Jesus all his life? And why did, you know, we all have asked the question why, and sometimes we have to say, well, I know this is hard, but why not? Why not my son? Why not you guys? Why not? Because it's all part of this plan that God wants to get us in heaven. And one day, when I heard you saying about honoring Zach in so many words, is that one day I just imagine this amazing reunion where I don't want to cry, but to where you'll get there and you're going to give him the biggest hug, and it's going to all be okay. It's going to all be okay. And it is your journey, Josh. It's your journey. But I just want you to know that this God gives you what it is that it takes to be the man that you are. And you're going to be the spiritual leader of your family, and you're going to continue leaving a legacy for children and for so many other men, because it takes a real man to do what it is that you're doing. I will just say that. And again, I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable, but I'm just own it. Just own it, because that's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
And I was going to say, you know, in Psalms, you know, I talk about Psalms 139, no matter what I could have done, no matter what Josh could have done, it was, the Lord knew that was the day Zach was going to go home.
Right.
And I have to believe what God's word says. Like, I couldn't, like, I went around, I shouldn't have bought oil for his motorcycle. His motorcycle was broken that morning. Like, it wasn't running. Like, there's a million things that would run through my head. Like, he shouldn't have even been out on his motorcycle. The bottom line is God knew, but also God goes before. So he already knows how he's going to use the situation, because he already knows what decisions I'm going to make. Like, he knows it's hard to comprehend, but he already had the rescue. He already had this planned. He already had it ahead of time, and he already prepared us for this journey of how he was going to use it and make it beautiful, however that works, because he's outside of time. So he already knew that. And by faith, I believe that, because I've seen him work and I've seen him do miracles. And it doesn't really matter what people, I believe that we have a bigger impact together than separate. I mean, people may think it's weird, But then if they really see it, you can't make this stuff up. We're not forcing this relationship. It's not like we're trying to put on a facade. You know, I love him. This is a miracle. And I don't diminish that in any way, shape, or form. And I'm grateful.
And you guys are going to continue to nurture this relationship. And I will just say, you know, in closing, first of all, thank you guys again from the bottom of my heart to everyone that is watching now and is going to be watching later. I've already seen a comment about, you know, someone saying that, you know, this gives me, you know, some hope to be able to forgive the person that, you know, took, I don't remember, a son or daughter to heaven and their choices, however, but you will continue to live this life of being sick inside when you don't forgive, because Jesus came here to forgive us. It's what he's asked us. He's teaching us all about forgiveness, because otherwise it's this disease that's going to continue to fester inside of you, because again, it's not going to bring your child back. You know, it could be other things. It's somebody that you need to forgive a long time ago from something else that has nothing to do with the death of somebody. It could just be somebody said something to you that wasn't appropriate. But it's like you're holding on to a grudge or the bitterness or the unforgiveness, and it's just making you sick. And so again, it is our duty. It is what we've been called to do, is to forgive other people. So I'm going to encourage and pray for all of you guys to be able to do that, so that you could be able to share a story for such a time as this, to be able to help other people. So God bless to everybody. Josh, I just want to say, I want to give you a big hug and blessings to you and your family, and continued courage to do what you're doing. Susie, please take care of yourselves, and no more surgeries after this next one, please.
Yeah.
And give Gabe a hug. And until next time, you guys have a beautiful night. And I will say this at the end, is that you guys are going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be okay. Thank you.
Josh.
Thanks.
Love you, Jackie.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye.